Psalm 75. To the chief musician, altaskith, a psalm, or song of Asaph. 75 to 1. Unto thee, O God, do we give thanks. Unto thee, do we give thanks. For that thy name is near, thy wondrous works declare. 75 to 2. When I shall receive the congregation, I will judge uprightly. 75 to 3. The earth and all the inhabitants thereof are dissolved. I bear up the pillars of it. Selah. 75 to 4. I said unto the fools, deal not foolishly, and to the wicked, lift not up the horn. 75 to 5. Lift not up your horn on high, speak not with a stiff neck. 75 to 6. For promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. 75 to 7. But God is the judge, he putteth down one, and setteth up another. 75 to 8. For in the hand of the Lord there is a cup, and the wine is red, it is full of mixture, and he poureth out of the same, but the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth shall wring them out, and drink them. 75 to 9. But I will declare forever, I will sing praises to the God of Jacob. 75:10. All the horns of the wicked also will I cut off, but the www.holybooks.com. Psalms page 350. Horns of the righteous shall be exalted. Psalm 76. To the chief musician on Negioth, a psalm, or song of Asaph. 76 to 1. In Judah is God known, his name is great in Israel. 76 to 2. In Salem also is his tabernacle, and his dwelling place in Zion. 76 to 3. There brake he the arrows of the bow, the shield, and the sword, and the battle. Selah. 76 to 4. Thou art more glorious and excellent than the mountains of prey. 76 to 5. The stout-hearted are spoiled, they have slept their sleep, and none of the men of might have found their hands. 76 to 6. At thy rebuke, O God of Jacob, both the chariot and horse are cast into a dead sleep. 76 to 7. Thou, even thou, art to be feared, and who may stand in thy sight when once thou art angry? 76 to 8. Thou didst cause judgment to be heard from heaven. The earth feared, and was still. 76 to 9. When God arose to judgment, to save all the meek of the earth. Selah. 76:10. Surely the wrath of man shall praise thee, the remainder of wrath shalt thou restrain. 76:11. Vow, and pay unto the Lord your God, let all that be round about him bring presents unto him that ought to be feared. 76:12. He shall cut off the spirit of princes, he is terrible to the kings of the earth. Psalm 77. To the chief musician, to Jeduthun, a psalm of Asaph. 77 to 1. I cried unto God with my voice, even unto God with my voice, and he gave ear unto me. 77 to 2. In the day of my trouble I sought the Lord, my sore ran in the night, and ceased not, my soul refused to be comforted. 77 to 3. I remembered God, and was troubled, I complained, and my spirit was overwhelmed. Selah. 77 to 4. Thou holdest mine eyes waking, I am so troubled that I cannot speak. 77 to 5. I have considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. 77 to 6. I call to remembrance my song in the night, I commune with mine own heart, and my spirit made diligent search. 77 to 7. Will the Lord cast off forever, and will he be favorable no more? 77 to 8. Is his mercy clean gone forever? Doth his promise fail for evermore? 77-9. Hath God forgotten to be gracious? Hath he in anger shut up his tender mercies? Selah. 77-10. And I said, This is my infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. 77:11. I will remember the works of the Lord, surely I will remember thy wonders of old. 77:12. I will meditate also of all thy work, and talk of thy doings. 77:13. Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God? 77:14. Thou art the God that doest wonders. Thou hast declared thy strength among the people. 77:15. Thou hast with thine arm redeemed thy people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph. Selah. 77:16. The waters saw thee, O God, the waters saw thee. They were afraid. The depths also were troubled. 77:17. The clouds poured out water, the skies sent out a sound. Thine arrows also went abroad. 77:18. The voice of thy thunder was in the heaven. The lightnings lightened the world. The earth trembled and shook. www.holybooks.com. Page 351 Psalms. 77:19. Thy way is in the sea, and thy path in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. 77:20. Thou leddest thy people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Psalm 78. Maskil of Asaph. 78:1. Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. 78:2. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. 78:3. Which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. 78:4. We will not hide them from their children, showing to the generation to come the praises of the Lord, and his strength, and his wonderful works that he hath done. 78:5. For he established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children. 78:6. That the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children. 78:7. That they might set their hope in God, and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments. 78:8. And might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God. 78:9. The children of Ephraim, being armed and carrying bows, turned back in the day of battle. 78:10. They kept not the covenant of God, and refused to walk in his law. 78:11. And forgat his works, and his wonders that he had showed them. 78:12. Marvelous things did he in the sight of their fathers, in the land of Egypt, in the field of Zoan. 78:13. He divided the sea, and caused them to pass through, and he made the waters to stand as an heap. 78:14. In the daytime also he led them with a cloud, and all the night with a light of fire. 78:15. He clave the rocks in the wilderness, and gave them drink as out of the great depths. 78:16. He brought streams also out of the rock, and caused waters to run down like rivers. 78:17. And they sinned yet more against him by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. 78:18. And they tempted God in their heart by asking meat for their lust. 78:19. Yea, they spake against God, they said, can God furnish a table in the wilderness? 78:20. Behold, he smote the rock, that the waters gushed out, and the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide flesh for his people? 78:21. Therefore the Lord heard this, and was wroth. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also came up against Israel. 78:22. Because they believed not in God, and trusted not in his salvation. 78:23. Though he had commanded the clouds from above, and opened the doors of heaven. 78:24. And had rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. 78:25. Man did eat angels' food, he sent them meat to the full. 78:26. He caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and by his power he brought in the south wind. 78:27. He rained flesh also upon them as dust, and feathered fowls, like as the sand of the sea. 78:28. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp, round about their habitations. 78:29. So they did eat, and were well filled, for he gave them there. www.holybooks.com. Psalms page 352. Own desire. 78:30. They were not estranged from their lust, but while their meat was yet in their mouths. 78:31. The wrath of God came upon them, and slew the fattest of them, and smote down the chosen men of Israel. 78:32. For all this they sinned still, and believed not for his wondrous works. 78:33. Therefore their days did he consume in vanity, and their years in trouble. 78:34. When he slew them, then they sought him, and they returned and inquired early after God. 78:35. And they remembered that God was their rock, and the high God, their Redeemer. 78:36. Nevertheless they did flatter him with their mouth, and they lied unto him with their tongues. 78:37. For their heart was not right with him, neither were they steadfast in his covenant. 78:38. But he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity, and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned he his anger away, and did not stir up all his wrath. 78:39. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away, and cometh not again. 78:40. How oft did they provoke him in the wilderness, and grieve him in the desert. 78:41. Yea, they turned back and tempted God, and limited the Holy One of Israel. 78:42. They remembered not his hand, nor the day when he delivered them from the enemy. 78:43. How he had wrought his signs in Egypt, and his wonders in the field of Zoan. 78:44. And had turned their rivers into blood, and their floods, that they could not drink. 78:45. He sent divers sorts of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs, which destroyed them. 78:46. He gave also their increase unto the caterpillar, and their labor unto the locust. 78:47. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sycamore trees with frost. 78:48. He gave up their cattle also to the hail, and their flocks to hot thunderbolts. 78:49. He cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, and indignation, and trouble, by sending evil angels among them. 78:50. He made a way to his anger, he spared not their soul from death, but gave their life over to the pestilence. 78:51. And smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength in the tabernacles of Ham. 78:52, but made his own people to go forth like sheep, and guided them in the wilderness like a flock. 78:53, and he led them on safely, so that they feared not, but the sea overwhelmed their enemies. 78:54, and he brought them to the border of his sanctuary, even to this mountain, which his right hand had purchased. 78:55, he cast out the heathen also before them, and divided them an inheritance by line, and made the tribes of Israel to dwell in their tents. 78:56, yet they tempted and provoked the Most High God, and kept not his testimonies. 78:57, but turned back, and dealt unfaithfully like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow. 78:58, for they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their graven images. 78:59, when God heard this, he was wroth, and greatly abhorred Israel. 78:60, so that he forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent, which he placed among men. 78:61, and delivered his strength into captivity, and his glory into the enemy's hand. 78:62, he gave his people over also unto the sword, and was wroth with his inheritance. www.holybooks.com, page 353. Psalms 78:63, the fire consumed their young men, and their maidens were not given to marriage. 78:64, their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentation. 78:65, then the Lord awaked as one out of sleep, and, like a mighty man that shouteth by reason of wine. 78:66, and he smote his enemies in the hinder parts, he put them to a perpetual reproach. 78:67, moreover he refused the tabernacle of Joseph, and chose not the tribe of Ephraim. 78:68, but chose the tribe of Judah, the Mount Zion which he loved. 78:69, and he built his sanctuary like high palaces, like the earth, which he hath established forever. 78:70, he chose David also his servant, and took him from the sheepfolds. 78:71, from following the ewes great with young he brought him to feed Jacob his people, and Israel his inheritance. 78:72, so he fed them according to the integrity of his heart, and guided them by the skillfulness of his hands.